Hello again. As you know, I am Eli, the computer guy. Today we're going to be talking about Hyper-V backup with Altera. So I've been doing a couple of Hyper-V classes. I should be doing some more Hyper-V classes. And one of the questions that comes up is how the hell do you do backup, right? So most of us geeks that have been doing technology for a while, we have had one way of doing backup. Basically, you install a server and then you install some kind of backup solution. You configure some kind of backup solution. You use Windows built-in backup solution, or you use Backup Exec, or Amanda, or any of these things, right? Well, the question now becomes is what happens when we start virtualizing all of your different servers? So instead of having one physical box, you have one physical box with 20 different servers on them, right? As this is more and more important because now that we can start virtualizing things, we can start creating more virtual servers as a security precaution. So back in the day, right, back 5 years ago, we would have one server, and that server would do a lot of different things. It would do your VPN access, and it would do your file services, and it would do your Active Directory, and it would do a lot of stuff. And the reason is because each one of those physical machines was very expensive. Well, the problem is remember, any piece of functionality you give to a server is also a vulnerability. So FTP has vulnerabilities, IIS has vulnerabilities, SharePoint has vulnerabilities, VPN has vulnerabilities. So the problem is if one person can compromise one of your services and all those services reside on one server, then they can start screwing around with everything else. So what you can do as a security precaution in this whole virtualized environment is you can now literally create dedicated servers, and they don't cost you very much more money. So I can have one Linux box and all it does is FTP, and another Windows box and or virtual instance, and all it does is Active Directory, and another virtual machine and all that does is VPN, because it's very inexpensive to set up all of these different virtual machines. You make them all dedicated to doing one specific task. That means they're less vulnerable, but then it means you have a lot of machines that you now have to figure out how to back up. Again, back in the old days, you have one physical box. That server does 1,000 different things. You set up backup for that one box, and that's a pretty easy thing. Now, if you have one physical box that has 30 instances of servers on it, now how do you deal with 30 different backup regimes? That can be a real pain in the butt. So, of course, whenever anything is a pain in the butt, there are companies out there that come up with solutions, and one of the solutions for dealing with Hyper-V is a product from Altera. So Altera has this Hyper-V backup software, and so what that does is you install the Altera Hyper-V backup software onto your 2012 server, and then that will back up and be responsible for backing up all of your different instances of operating systems. So instead of having to have a piece of backup software installed on each individual instance, you install this onto your 2012 server, and it will monitor everything. So for notification, alerts, sending files offsite, all that kind of stuff, you're dealing with one management console instead of a lot of different ones. So let's go over to the computer so I can kind of show you what's going on here, because this is a very, very, very useful and a good thing in the modern world, and Altera works well from what I've been able to see. So this is the Hyper-V backup. So I've installed this. They have a 30-day trial, and that's what I'm currently using right now. So we can go and we can see the dashboard, and it says, backup drive status, how much data is being used in the backup drive. It shows us if our different instances have been backed up, all that kind of stuff. So this is just a basic dashboard to give us information about what's going on. Then we can go over here to configure, and here is where we can get in and we can start playing around with how we're going to back up the different instances we have on this machine. So with this particular 2012 server, I have a Fedora server on here, I have a Server 2012 box, and I have Ubuntu. So these are all individual instances. And from here I can say what machines I'm going to back up using Altera. So maybe one particular machine I actually do use a piece of built-in backup software. I could simply uncheck that, and then Altera wouldn't deal with it anymore. So that's how you pick which instances you're going to be dealing with. Then we can go down here to compression and encryption. So this is a nice thing. So of course you guys know about compression. Compression is making large files small. So whenever you're dealing with backup software, you want compression. I have no idea why you wouldn't want compression. But the other thing that they can do here is you can actually do compressed and encrypted. So not only will it compress your backup files, but it will encrypt them, especially in this modern day and age, you know, post-Snowden and all that kind of horse crap. A lot of people want the data encrypted, especially if you're going to be backing up from all these instances. So let's say these different instances of operating systems, they store data about your individual users, or they store social security numbers or any kind of thing like that. You can encrypt the backup. This is one of the failures in security for a number of different infrastructures that I've seen. And the issue is that the security people go in, or the administrator goes in, and they secure the server, and they put encryption on the server, and they do this, and they do that, and they do the other thing. But the interesting thing that they forget to do is they forget to encrypt the backups. So all the data gets backed up, and then if anybody can compromise the backups, the data is just there for them to take. So the cool thing with this Altera Hyper-V backup is you can actually compress and encrypt it. Then for the encryption key, you can go down here, and there's this little button that allows you to manually set whatever encryption key you want. So that's all under your protection. So again, whenever you're dealing with things like security compliance, this is something to think about. Okay, your servers are secure, but what happens when you back up the data? Is all of that data, you know, basically in clear, so somebody can just go in and grab whatever they want? It's things to think about. Then we can go down here to backup locations, so you can set different backup locations. Right now, I just have this set to the local disk because it's just a test machine. But you could change this to go to an external disk. Or what they have here is you can actually do offsite. So set up an offsite copy method to be able to send the data offsite to a different location. So if you have clients that are using, let's say, Altera Hyper-V, you can set up a location at your office so all of their VMs back up to your location, and then that's something that you could additionally charge them for. When you want to set up the offsite copy, you can go over here to the offsite copy, enable offsite copies, and go in. You can configure all this stuff. So again, this is a nice thing. This is already pre-built into it. Let's see, we can go down here. You can set up different backup schedules. So each individual machine, you can do a backup schedule. So it's not one backup schedule for all the machines. It's different backup schedules. Backup retention policy. So this is something that is very useful. So this says how far back are you going to keep your backup copies? 1 day, 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, 6 months. And then they also have the local version and the remote version. So anything, so let's say you are backing up to a local hard drive, you could have the retention policy there be 1 week, but then when you're backing up off-site to some data center, you could have the retention policy be 6 months. And all you do in order to change your retention policy is you just grab the name and you dump it. And so now Ubuntu's off-site backup, it now goes to 6 months. You can also add your own schedule here. So I can click on an add, and it asks me how many days, and I can say, I don't know, 999,000 whatever days, hit save. And so now it can save for up to 3,650 days. So I can say I want to keep copies of my Fedora server for 3,650 days, put it there, and it will keep backing up until 3,650 days from now, when it will start deleting the different backups. So that is a very, very useful thing, again, for things like compliance. How long are you going to be keeping your backup copies for? And you can just drag and drop to figure it out. Then you can go down and do the notifications. So again, the thing that's nice with using something like a full backup solution for all of your Hyper-V instances is, instead of worrying about like email configurations on a per server basis, you can simply go in here and you can set up the configurations for the overall server. So, you know, send email notifications for successful backups, send email notifications for backups, offsite copies, file skipped, so on and so forth. So you can all set all that up. Beyond that, you can come down here and you can go go into manual backup. So if you want to manually back up your different operating systems, you can do that. You can do the offsite copy and seed. Now the seed thing is really cool. The seed thing is really nice, especially in the modern world, right? Because in the modern world, we have so damn much data. I remember back in the day when I had servers, I had client servers who had 80 gigs of hard drive storage. That was it. 80 gigs was like the entire damn server. Now we have servers that have terabytes and terabytes and terabytes. And so the problem comes up is what happens when you set up the offsite backup routine, right? And so the first time the offsite backup routine runs for a lot of different types of backup software, that means it has to push out all of that backup information, those terabytes of backup information, through the crappy ass ISP internet connection that you have at that location, right? So if you have even a 5 megabit per second upload speed, you are now shoving 4 terabytes of data through a 5 megabit per second upload connection, which is gonna take you weeks and probably shut down your damn office, and everybody's gonna hate you, and it's gonna be really, really nasty, right? And so the cool thing here is you can actually seed to disk, and what this allows you to do is you can do the backup to a disk. So you can take one of those Drobos I did a video on before, or you can just take a really big external hard drive. You can back up to that external hard drive locally. Then you take that backup to the server you're going to be backing up to, copy it over there, and now that server has been seeded. So now when the backup occurs, only the modifications since when that seed was created will actually be sent on the upward when you're going to be uploading it, right? And so that is going to save you a lot of bandwidth and just be, it's going to save a lot of hassle. So that's a very nice thing. Then you can go down here, you can do the restore VMs. We can do granular restore, so you can go down and you can restore individual files from your virtual machines. They have Exchange item level restore. I have to be honest with you, I haven't really played with Exchange servers for a while. I don't know how well this works, but that's a really nice tool, especially if you're running an Exchange server. Beyond that, they also have the Sandbox restore, and this is a pretty cool thing. So the Sandbox restore allows you to restore a virtual machine to make sure it's still functional without putting it into the overall infrastructure. So let's say you're doing your backup routine. Again, one of the things people don't think about with backup routines is making sure the data is not corrupted or there's not problems, right? And so the issue is a lot of times people have these backups that are continuously running, but nobody ever verifies that the backups aren't completely and utterly corrupted. And so the nice thing with this Sandbox restore is it's able to restore it into its own little sandbox so you can play with it, make sure that the server is in fact running, that there's no corrupted data, any of that kind of stuff, so you can verify the integrity of the backup. Then beyond that, they have different things, latest reports, history, error messages, so on and so forth. But this is basically all there is to the Hyper-V backup from Altera. I like it. I mean, it's dirt simple. It's incredibly easy to use. It's incredibly easy to set up. It has the off-site stuff built into it. It's all WYSIWYG, and it's a good thing, especially considering the backup software that I used to use. This is a really, really, really good option. Now, if you're interested in this stuff, basically all you have to do is just go to altaro.com, altaro.com, click on Hyper-V Backup, and you can go and you can read all the different information. They do have 3 different versions of Altera Hyper-V. So they have the free one. So they have the free one. This is up to 2 virtual machines per Hyper-V host. So that means per basically physical box. You can restore old versions for up to 4 weeks. You can do schedules, blah, 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 blah. So it gives you a few things for the free version. Then beyond that, I don't know, the prices are a little wonky here. They have the standard version, $395. Again, for one Hyper-V host, that means one physical box. You can do up to 5 virtual machines. Restore old versions, that's unlimited. And then it gives you some more options here. It gives you the off-site backups, remote control, all this kind of stuff. So that's a good thing. And then they have the $585 one, basically gives you unlimited VMs per Hyper-V host, so on and so forth. So you can kind of figure out what you want to play around with here. Again, if you want to play around with this, they also do have the 30-day trial, which gives you all of the options. Now, I know some of you guys are kind of whine and cry and complain about that price, even at $585. But to be honest with you, back in the day, like 5 years ago, I used to pay like $500 or $600 for backup software per server. So when I had my consulting shop, we used to use Acronis. Disk image as the backup software, and the server, that was a funny thing, right? The workstation version, well, the home version was like $40, the workstation version was like $80, and the server version, I swear to you, it was like $600, and that was to back up one single server. So if you're looking at this, $585, and it backs up all the instances, basically all the servers that you have running in Hyper-V, it makes a lot of sense. It's actually, the price point is good. So this is something that I would say that you guys should take a look at. Again, the more that I play with Hyper-V, the more that I do have to say is that if I was working in a Windows environment still, I really think I would just virtualize the whole thing. Do remember, if you start dealing with Windows Server 2012, even the standard edition, you get you get the hypervisor as part of the software, and then you get 2 licenses for the server operating system to run within the virtual machines. So one of the things I would argue is, instead of setting up one physical box and having that be your Active Directory, I would say set up your physical box, set up Hyper-V, create an instance of server within the Hyper-V that is your Active Directory, then create an instance of a server, that's your file server or whatever else, and then go out there and you buy a piece of software like this backup software, and I think you will be much happier that way. Really, the more I look at it, the more I really do think we are in the world of virtualization, and basically everything should simply be virtualized, again, even in the Microsoft world. Now, I will say, just FCC compliance, Altero is one of my sponsors, been one of my sponsors for a long time, but, again, I think this is good software. It makes a lot of sense. We're talking about Hyper-V anyway, so you know what I'm saying? It's good software. It's pretty easy to use. The price point is good, and there's a free version if you want to use it. So again, although they are a sponsor, I would say take a look at it. Though I will warn you, as with everything in the IT world, before you deploy this into the production environment, make sure you do a lot of tests. Again, with backup software, that is one thing. That is one problem that I see in the real world, is people do not test backup software enough before they put it into their production environment. Backup software is not like Word. It's not like Outlook. It's not like a web browser, right? If you install Word and it screws something up, I mean, okay, maybe the secretary cries for a day, but it's really not that bad. You don't know how many times I've seen people deploy backup software. They don't configure it properly. It's not running as it should, and then the server crashes and people go to the backup data store and it's basically completely and utterly worthless. So again, as I will say, whether they're my sponsor or not, before you go out and you deploy any kind of backup software into your production environment, test the ever-loving hell out of it. If you do not test the ever-loving hell out of your backup solution, you're an idiot. You're just blind. You're just dumb, right? And then not only do you test it before you put it into your production environment, but once it's in your production environment, you need to be continually testing it. Because again, this is one thing I have seen in the real world time and time again, is you have administrators out there that install and set up some kind of backup routine, and then it never actually works. I've actually walked into clients' offices where the only backup that ever successfully ran was basically when the administrator I'm replacing had run it the very first time, and that's it. And you're sitting there and you're like, oh, look, yeah, you have a backup from 3 years ago. No. But what's our latest backup? The one from 3 years ago, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, just that's something to keep in mind. But otherwise, like I say, Altero looks good. It's very easy to use. It's very, very nice. And again, I'm actually really starting to like Hyper-V. Like, the more I play with Hyper-V, the more I have to say I really like Hyper-V. So I definitely think you guys should take a look at it. So Altero.com, Hyper-V backup, good stuff. NerdsWeCanFixThat.com. If you're thinking about starting your own computer services company, but you don't want to have to worry about coming up with a logo and copyright and trademark and all of those kinds of things, you may think about buying into a computer services franchise system. Nerds We Can Fix That is a computer services franchise system. They have 62 franchises throughout the United States. They can franchise in every state other than Hawaii. They also franchise internationally. If you're thinking about starting your own computer services company, you should contact them, fill out the information below, or give them a call. Again, as I will say, franchise systems are great for a lot of people, not so good for others. Always make sure to do your due diligence, but if you're thinking about starting a computer services company anyway, you might as well contact Nerds We Can Fix That to see what they have to say. Altaro.com, Altaro.com, if you're dealing with virtualization in a Hyper-V environment. So we're talking about Windows Server 2008 R2, 2012, and 2012 R2. Take a look at Altaro.com. They have a number of Hyper-V backup solutions. They have the free version, which will back up to 2 VMs for free forever. They also have the unlimited version, starting at only $400 per host. I think this is a very good value. So if you are dealing with Hyper-V virtualization and you need a backup solution, take a look at Altaro.com. AddAccess.com. If you're dealing with Active Directory on a large scale, so you have hundreds of users to add, hundreds of users to disable, so on and so forth, you may want to take a look at AddAccess.com. This is Active Directory management and automation software. So this tries to automate and simplify the Active Directory workflow. So if you are in a large scale Active Directory infrastructure, take a look at AddAccess.com. Plixer.com. Plixer deals with NetFlow analytics software. So NetFlow is a component of Cisco equipment that shows you what's going on at the network layer, what devices are talking to what other devices, what kind of network jitter, all of that kind of stuff. So Plixer has a free piece of software called Scrutinizer. Scrutinizer is a free NetFlow network traffic analysis tool. So if you want to play around with NetFlow, if you want to see what's going on with the network layer and you have Cisco equipment, take a look at Plixer.com. Click on the link below this video. It'll bring you to this page where you can download Scrutinizer, the free NetFlow network traffic analysis tool. SchooleyMitchell.com. If you're trying to find better internet or telephone service, or if you're trying to find less expensive internet or telephone service, give Schooley Mitchell a call. Basically what these guys are telecom consultants. You call them, you say what you need for yourself or your client, and they figure out the best option. They'll examine your existing services and review your bills to make sure there are no errors. Then they'll keep an eye on your services moving forward so that everything remains optimized. Because Schooley Mitchell is objective and independent, they have no ties to vendors. You know they are always your best interests in mind. The best part is there is no fee for their services. The only cost is a portion of the shared savings over a set period of time. If they don't find savings, there is no cost to you. Schooley Mitchell. Spiceworks.com. These guys have the free network management software, the free mobile device management software, the free community with millions of users. So if you're an IT professional and you need support, Spiceworks is a great place to go. All of their stuff is basically free and just an absolutely great thing. Again, if you have any questions that I don't answer in the show that are technical in nature, we're talking about Active Directory synchronization between sites in remote areas. If you click on the link below this video, that will take you to the Spiceworks community. They have millions of users there that will be able to help you out. So take a look at Spiceworks.com. Total Seminars, TotalSim.com. If you're looking for your A+, your Net+, your Security Plus certification, they have video training, practice test, exam vouchers, and more. If you are on the CompTIA track and you are looking for study prep material, study guides, that type of thing, take a look at Total Seminars, TotalSim.com, TotalSem.com. Veeam.com, Veeam.com. If you just virtualized 100 servers and now you're trying to figure out how to back them up, they have solutions for ESXi, they have solutions for Hyper-V, and as you guys like, they have free stuff. So if you are dealing with a virtualized environment and you're trying to figure out a backup solution, take a look at Veeam.com. So the hands-on review today is for dedicated servers from Unmetered.com. These seem to be very, very, very good, and I'm migrating all of my websites over to them, and I'm a very, very happy boy. So anybody that's been following me for any length of time knows that I don't like to use shared hosting plans to host my websites and other web services, and I don't like using VPSs or virtual private servers. So a lot of people like to use virtual private servers because they're inexpensive, $5 a month, $10 a month, $30 a month. You can configure them however you want, and they think that's the greatest thing in the world. But But what I found is when I use virtual private servers, what's called the I/O performance is usually pretty miserable. So the I/O performance is actually being able to push and pull data to the hard drive. Also, once you start doing more CPU intensive tasks, you start to question what one core of a processor is, right? So like when you go for a VPS, they'll tell you what kind of hard drive you're getting, and they'll tell you how much RAM you're getting. But when it comes to like cores of the processor, you're really not sure what that is. And so what I found, if I just go out and buy a dedicated server, it just makes everything a lot better, a lot easier, a lot faster, frankly. You know, pay $100 a month for a dedicated server and everything just works well. The nice thing with dedicated servers is you can basically configure them however you want, and you get the entire dedicated server. You get the entire Xeon processor. You get all the RAM. You get all the hard drive and all of that, and it just makes life a lot better. So I have used dedicated servers from 1&1. I used one from 1&1 for about a year. I've been using a dedicated server from GoDaddy for about 6 months now, and I've been looking for a little bit better performance. You know, they talk about that with the VPS thing, where there are now VPSs, I think Linode and DigitalOcean, that offer SSD storage. So instead of being on old slow platter drives, they offer SSD. And so I've been going out there looking for dedicated servers, and I've been wanting a dedicated server with SSD. And so that is one of the things that I found with Unmetered, and I really like it a lot. So I've migrated EliTheComputerGuy.com over to Unmetered, and I plan to be migrating quite a few other things. If you're interested in this, basically all it is you just go to Unmetered.com, and you can go and you can see all of their options. One of the things that I really like with Unmetered is the ability to basically fully configure whatever server you want. So when I bought my server from Unmetered last week, it literally took them less than 24 hours to get it up and running. So I came in here, you say what kind of server you want. So I just went with the Xeon quad core. Then you can come down and you can say what kind of hard drives you want. And the cool thing is you just go down here, and so I chose 128 gig SSD, 90K IOPS. So that's very, very fast, powerful enough. It asks you how much memory you want. I just went with a standard 8 gigs, but you could go all the way up to 32 gigs on this particular one if you wanted. You come down here, you order now, and you check out. So for, a Xeon processor, 8 gigs of RAM, 128 gig SSD drive comes out to $94 a month. There's no setup fee. There's no contract. That's one thing I like. When I was at 1&1.com, they had a year contract. So, if you're sitting there and you're trying to figure out you want to buy a dedicated server, it's a different question if you have to pay for $100 or if you have to pay for $1,200. You know what I'm saying? So with this, you can set it up, you can play with it. If you don't like it, there's no extra fees. But yeah, this is all the stuff. They also have different server locations. So they have the Europe one in Strasbourg, or in the United States in St. Louis. The other thing that they have that I really like with Unmetered, the big thing, is their speed. So with them, you get a 500 megabit per second connection, unlimited traffic to the internet. So again, that's one of the issues that we're running into nowadays, as more and more people get faster and faster internet connections. I have a 35 up, 35 down connection to my house. Some people have gigabit per second connections. Well, the issue is a lot of the dedicated servers out there, they only give you 100 megabit per second, 100 megabit connection to the internet. So when your users are coming to your server, no matter how fast their internet connection is, yours is only 100 megabits per second. So what's nice with the Unmetered stuff is all of their servers have gig network cards. They give you 500 megabits per second, unlimited for free. And then, this is a bit ridiculous, but I don't know. I don't know many people who actually need a full gig. But if you want a full gig, it will cost you an extra $550 a month. But from what I've been able to see, a 500 megabit per second connection for the server is just an absolutely beautiful thing. So again, that's my little review of Unmetered.com. Again, I've been using them for a little over a week now, and I have been very, very impressed. Like when I go to EliTheComputerGuy.com, that's been migrated over there. Like when I play with it, it's just fast because it's built on a WordPress site, and every time I click a different button, it pops up and it's there, which is different than when it was on the dedicated server over at GoDaddy. Truly, truly, truly. So if you're looking for a bit better performance for your dedicated servers, definitely take a look at Unmetered.com. And again, for all you guys out there, VPS is the best. I'm telling you, Once you go dedicated server, it really is like the performance difference between a VPS and a dedicated server is just absolutely, it's a wonderful thing no matter who you go with. So this question comes from Rizwan A. Let's see here. I'm looking for a video or tutorial for a complete migration from NT server to Windows 2003 server on a new machine. If you can send me any information or a link, that would be very appreciated. No, even if I knew how to do that, I'm not going to do that for you. So it is now 2014, right? 2014. 2003 was a long time ago in a galaxy far away. I will say, when 2003 server came out, it is a really, really awesome, good server. 2000 server was good. 2003 was even better. It was a great class of operating system for servers. But it is 11 years old at this point. And not only is it 11 years old, but it's also coming to its functional end of life. So the extended support for Server 2003, the end of life of it is July 14th of 2015. So right now we're in September. So basically you have less than a year when Microsoft is still going to be producing updates and patches and all of that kind of stuff. So really, honestly, don't migrate to Windows Server 2003. There is no good reason for that at this point. One thing you have to remember, whenever you're dealing in a business environment, is that the product itself, like the server software, is actually a very, very, very small cost. The most expensive thing in any organization is the employee cost, the cost for the actual service. It's not how much it costs for a client access license or for the server operating system, but rather how much are you charging per hour to install or to migrate and all of those kind of things. So if you have a system that I have no idea how the hell it's still on Windows Server NT server, you need to be looking at migrating up to Windows Server 2012. Because why are you going to do a two-stage migration? Why are you going to migrate from NT to 2003, which is now an old, nasty old operating system, when 2012 is the one that is out? And again, is that one thing that I will say, I hate Windows 8 and 8.1 with a passion. I think that's just I'm not even going to say what I think it is. But on the other hand, the server operating systems are really good. I mean, I've played with Server 2012 and Server 2012 R2 quite a bit, and that is a good, nice, solid server operating system. They have that whole crappy-ass Metro interface in there. But if you can get past the Metro style or modern style interface, I mean, it's a really good, solid server operating system. So there's no reason not to migrate to that now. So what I would say is if you're on an NT server, migrate to 2012. Don't worry about 2003. The issue that you're going to be running into, especially if you're running Windows servers, is remember when you're running Windows servers, you're dealing with an overall infrastructure. It is not simply the server itself or the client itself. It is the server. It is how the clients talk to the server. It's the additional server software, SharePoint, Exchange, all those kind of things, and they all have to talk to each other, right? So if you have modern client operating systems and you have a nasty old operating system, server operating system, you can have problems with them communicating. Basically, whenever Microsoft creates these classes of operating systems, Server 2012 and Windows 8, the idea is that they can communicate well together and everything works. Whereas if you have Windows 8 and you have a 2003 server, some functionality won't be there because 2003 server doesn't have all the functions of 2012 server. It's a complete and utter nasty mess. So don't migrate to 2003. I don't know why in 2014 you would migrate to 2003. One, it is just old, and we are in the tech field, and especially 11 years old. It really is old. Two, Server 2012 is really, really good. I do have to say that 2012 is really good. And three, again, Windows Server 2003, the end of life is going to be in less than a year from now anyway. So why are you going to go through the migration process from NT to 2003 to only turn around and then go to 2012? That's just a mess. So just go NT to 2012. And with that, I'm not sure if there is a migration strategy, to be honest with you. You can look into it, but again, that's one of the problems. You don't want to wait too long to migrate to new operating systems, because a lot of times you simply run out of migration possibilities. So you could go from NT to 2000, and then 2000 to 2003, and 2003 to 2008, and 2008 to 2012. Going straight from NT to 2012 might be a little wonky. I don't know, something to figure out. But go to NT to 2012. That really is going to be your best bet. So this question comes from Davids B. What if I thought of an amazing company name, but the domain name is already taken and it practically isn't used at all? The site says under maintenance for almost a year. What should I do? So this question comes up a lot, especially in the modern world, when you create your business. So you have an idea for your business. When you go out there and you create your business, you want to come up with a really good name for your business, because that's like the best branding that there is. If you have a good name, then people can remember very easily and makes them feel comfortable buying products from you. I mean, that just solves a lot of problems. A lot of companies out there that I've seen that have issues, a lot of times, a lot of the issue is simply they have really, really, really bad, horrible names. And if they just simply had a better company name, life would go better for them. And so the question is, you come out, you go out there and you figure out and you think and you go, okay, I have a great company name. I have the perfect company name that's going to be amazing. It's amazing for branding and everything else. And then you go out to buy the domain name that corresponds to that brand name, and you find that it's taken. It's taken by one of these, what they're called, cyber squatters. These people that go out, they buy domain names, and then they don't really do anything with them. Sometimes they auction them off. Sometimes they try to sell them to other people. Sometimes there are people like me who, hey, a domain name's only 13 bucks, so I go out and I buy a domain name I want, and then I don't actually end up using it, but I don't care because it's $13. $13 doesn't matter to me, but if I bought that domain name, you can now no longer use it. So the first thing that you can do, frankly, is you can go check the Whois record, figure out who owns that domain name. If they really aren't using it, ask to buy it from them, right? For these people, they're paying their little $10 a year, $13 a year, $20 a year maybe. So if they're not actually using the site for everything, for anything, if you contact them and offer them a few $100s, they may sell it to you. The one thing that I will warn you with this is you all hear the goody two-shoes stories where people just give the other side the domain name. That generally doesn't happen. It's all about business. So if you approach them and you say, hey, I'd be willing to spend, $200 or something on the domain name, they may be willing to sell it to you. So that's the first thing. So do a Whois, figure out who owns the domain name, email them, call them, whatever, say, hey, can I buy it from you for however much, and see what they have to say. The next thing that you can do is, if they don't do that, one thing that you can think about doing is, instead of focusing on the domain name as your company name, so EliTheComputerGuy.com, what you can think about doing is coming up with some kind of phrase that corresponds to your company. So EliTheComputerGuy.com. So maybe freevideoclass.com. Right? Again, it's a good domain name. So people go, oh, Eli the Computer Guy, oh yeah, he does freevideoclass.com. Right? Something that is memorable. So that would be the other option there, something to think about. So you don't have to make your domain name the same as your company name, right? You can come up with some little catchy phrase, and maybe that would be the domain name that you would use. So those are the two things to think about. If you have a domain name, go out there, see if you can buy it, or use another catchy phrase to go with your company, or just go out and keep spitballing and try to find a company name that you can buy. Again, one thing that I will say, I've purchased a few domain names in the past month or so, is it is surprising how many pretty good domain names still exist and you can buy very easily. So you may just want to spend an extra couple of minutes thinking about company names, domain names, and you might find something that actually is in fact better. So those are some thoughts if somebody owns the domain name that you already want. So the final thoughts for today are if you are doing some kind of like technology project or startup company or something like that, and you start running into problems, right? The question is how do you try to figure out what is actually going on? Whenever we start doing projects, we always think that we will understand why we are going to fail. Resources are going to be too expensive. People don't want to buy the product. The price point isn't right. But a lot of times when you start doing things, the reality is that the reason that your project starts failing is reasons that you don't really comprehend and that you don't really understand. You look at the numbers and you look at the metrics and you look at the inputs and you look at the outputs and you do all the numbers and you just sit there and you scratch your head and go, that doesn't make any sense. I know I'm failing. I know things are going down, but I don't. Why? And one of the things that people don't do for some reason is simply go out there and ask their clients, their users, their audience what their opinion is, right? Why are you not purchasing my product anymore? Why are you not viewing my videos anymore? Why are you not doing X, Y, or Z? It is a very weird thing, like psychologically, for a lot of business owners, right? Because a lot of business owners get really scared. They get scared and they get worried. What if the clients or the customers or the end users realize that we're having problems? Oh no, they're gonna leave us, right? So a lot of founders and a lot of business owners won't simply ask the end user what the problems are because they're scared, for any number of reasons. But what I found is if you go out there and, like I say, if you're not selling your products for some reason, if for some reason, again, sales have gone down, if you go out and you ask, you may find some answers that you did not realize. Really, honestly, right now with geekbraindump.com, for some reason the numbers have been tanking. They went up for a long time, they plateaued for a long time, and then they've been going down and down and down. And so yesterday I sent out a mass email to all the authors to say, hey guys, what's going on? And that's a scary thing to do, right? Because I have all these authors that are writing for geekbraindump.com, and so it's admitting to them, hey, the stats are going down. But by putting out that mass email and then getting a lot of response back, I probably got about 30 emails back, I can now look at all of that information and see what they are seeing. Again, one of the problems you get into in startup land, startup world, is you get the blinders on, right? You have your view of the world. You look at the world from one particular perspective. But the reality is your perspective isn't the only perspective, and your perspective might not be the right perspective for this particular situation. So when you go out there and ask people, and you get 30 different responses in, you can see what all of their different perspectives are, and you might find out you're looking at the wrong thing, you're paying attention to the wrong thing, so on and so forth. So that is a thing that I would say for the final thoughts for today, is if you are having problems with your business, your project, whatever else, go out and ask your clients, your users, your audience what they think the problem is. Just tell them, listen, sales for the last 3 months are down. I don't understand why. And they may look at you and they may go, well, your price is too high, to be honest with you. Or they may say, well, you have competition that opened up around the block, and again, they cost 50% as much. Or they may look at you and go, well, I really like you, but I have to say the employee that's actually doing repair work, they kind of suck. And you go, what? And they go, yeah, I really want to do business with you, but see that employee that you have that's actually interacting with me, they're pretty damn crappy and I don't want to deal with them, and that's why I've left. So these are the kinds of things that come up if you simply go out there and you ask the people who are, buying or whatever from you, and you might be surprised what you learn, and you might find out very important information.